How can we be like the early church? Well, if you were at service on Sunday or you're watching us online, you heard Pastor Eric preach this past Sunday, his second pass through the book of Acts, second Sunday talking about Acts. And he spoke about the early church as one of those things that he talked about. And he said his second lesson said, don't romanticize the early church because they had many issues. And he reminded us of that. But the Bible, the written word of God, records these stories, these depictions of what was happening in the early church to us for a reason, so that we can understand how they were living, because there were a lot of cool things that were happening. And one of the things that they were really marked by was generosity for each other. Being a pastor here, I get to see this generosity among the saints, much of it behind the scenes. I can't even count the number of times in service someone will come up to me, or maybe right before a church service, with an envelope, and they'll say another family's name on it. Hey, can you go give this to them, and don't let them know it was from me. And so I get to walk over and hand it to that other family and watch them just like, oh, we had such a need for this. And so both sides, I get to kind of see both sides at the same time. It's really cool. And we recognize as pastors that we only get to see just a small piece of that, but it's just so exciting to see you all minister to each other that way and love each other that way. We have people that, they'll have sudden job losses, or just a financial burden that comes up, or maybe a medical issue, or some other thing that is putting them, that maybe combined with other circumstances, is putting them to a place where they're really struggling financially. And others in the church hear about it. Others in Evident Life Church, they hear about it and they jump in to help from their surplus and sometimes from their scarcity. And it's so encouraging. It's so exciting to see both of those happen. And beyond the financial gift, like the situation I described, I can think of a particular one where that happened, where the family was handed this money and they were like, oh, and they were just so encouraged because their need was seen and their need was taken care of ultimately by the Lord. Well, the question is, Pastor Phil, how does that happen? How do other people know that there's a need? Well, the answer is what we also see here in Acts chapter 2, the early church, because they're doing life together like the early church. It might look like the family that they come to church, they make an effort to be at church very regularly on Sundays. And maybe they're also part of a life group where they're breaking bread and encouraging each other that way, or they attend a Bible study, or maybe a prayer meeting on Wednesday, or maybe they're serving in outreach, they're serving in some other ministry where when they're huddled together and they're doing life, these conversations happen. How you doing? Well, this is a tough week. I actually lost my job this week. And it gets known and that spreads. So people learn about the circumstances through these church body interactions. And so what do people do? Well, they're going to be praying for those people. So they pray for them. They pray for their situation, their need, as they understand it. And then a lot of times they go directly into action to help with that need, or to tell someone else who maybe could help with that need. It might not just be financially. It might be some sort of a mechanic. It might be something very specific. Or they let the church know, hey, this is going on with this family. Maybe it's consideration for benevolence. All those kind of things. Let's look right now. Let's jump to Acts chapter 2 and read the last section from there and see what it was like with the early church. It says, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common, and they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. So the other thing that we witness from those scriptures is that they were coming together and they were ministering together. And what was happening? They were being filled with awe, and signs and wonders were being done among them. And here's the big deal. It says in verse 47, that last sentence of chapter 2, the Lord added to their number day by day those who are being saved. This is really the pinnacle of it all. God tells us to love him and to love others. And for those outside the church, for unbelievers, the way we love them, yes, we can care for their needs and we should, but we can share with them the hope that we have, as Peter reminds us in one of his letters, to do that gently and respectfully. So I encourage each of you who are listening to this to not only attend, if Evident Life Church is your church home, not only attend your church home, but to really be committed, be regular, be part of a life group where you're going to be praying together and looking at the Word and breaking bread together. We always have need. So another area is serving. We always have need. Like in our kids ministry, we could use people right now in our kids ministry, the worship and AV team, hospitality, and outreach, just to name a few. You can't do it all. You can't go to every prayer meeting. You can't go to every Bible study. You can't be at every outreach event, but you can be committed, and you can be committed to, like, say, a life group, and also looking for those opportunities to connect with people even outside the life group within your church. So when you come to any meeting, I want to challenge you with this as well. Don't be thinking about, what am I going to get out of this meeting? I'm coming Sunday. What message am I going to get out of it? Or Wednesday prayer, what am I going to get out of it? But think about what you can bring. What do you bring to that meeting? What is that meeting going to be missing if you're not there? It might just be a smile. It might be a kind word to someone. It might be a hug, or it may be like you praying for them or giving them something specific. So as Pastor Eric has always liked to remind us, he has for a while, be who you are, say what you know, and give what you have. For those outside the church, it's the gospel, it's the good news about Jesus. And for those, your brothers and sisters within the church, it's making deep connection and fellowship, because we need that. We need each other. We can go off and do a million other activities. We can spend time doing things that aren't really going to count. But when we come together, it's important. It matters. It matters to the others that you're with. And ultimately, it matters to the Lord. So may God bless you as you commit to plug in and serve and be part of whatever church you're called to in this season.